it's a psychological thriller in which it's a fractured personality. You asked what the Kaleidoscope, was there to represent, and it represents the different shards of our central character's personality, who sees the world in a sort of in a fractured way. During the course of the movie, we cycle back over events, and we become more and more lost in his perception of the world, of what's happened, of what's going to happen, of who he is, of who the people around him are. So it's a thing about, fluid identity, about sort of fluid perception of the world, all taking place in this very, very imposing municipal block that we see from the outside, which, I mean, interestingly enough, the design of it is so cleverly done. As I said, I've seen the film twice now. Only the second time around did I realise that the way in which that block of flats is shaped is almost like one of the reflectors on the inside of a kaleidoscope. There's a recurrent shot looking up through a spiral staircase. Again, this idea of spiralling, of circling, which is very much echoed by the score. And when you look at the staircase from above, the way in which the curved lines intersect, it looks like an eye. And this reminded me very much, I was thinking of the Giallo of Dario Argento. I was recently doing an introduction for Bird with Crystal Plumage, and I was very struck by that. It's the cinematographer is Philip Blaubach, I hope that's how you pronounce his name, who has done a really, really terrific job in these kind of the tight confines of the area in which of the flat in which the thing is playing out. You get a real sense of geography. I love the fact that watching it second time round, there were clues that I hadn't noticed before. The film is very, very carefully visually constructed. The way in which the soundtrack goes. I mean, we open up with this sort of late 60s, early 70s font that says Kaleidoscope that makes it, I mean, it really does make it look like an old throwback film. For me, there was elements of Barbarian Sound Studio in there, which I really love, the way it's sort of textural, the way the more you look at it, the more you see in it. And the performances are great. I mean, Toby was quite right to praise Anne Reid, because she's, it's a magnificent job, which that role could easily tip over into caricature, but it absolutely doesn't. And I thought it was a really well done, intriguing psychological drama and thriller that, yes, as he said, it alludes to, the Norman Bates relationships in Psycho. It alludes to the Tenant, and it alludes, in my opinion, to the Giallo of the late 60s and early 70s. And it does all of those things without ever tripping itself up and becoming a mere homage. I thought it was a really terrific job by Reba Jones.